Hi, it's Grace. In this commenting block, we're going to be reviewing multiplying in scientific notation. So when we're multiplying in scientific notation, what operations do we have in this problem? Here we have multiplication, over here we have multiplication and here we have multiplication as well. So when we're multiplying this way, because it's all multiplication, we can multiply in any order. So I'm going to start by multiplying my numbers together. So I'll do 3 times 3. What is 3 times 3? 3 times 3 is 9. And now I can multiply my tens together. What do I do to multiply my tens? Yeah, I'm going to keep my base and add my exponents. Is this right here in scientific notation, 9 times 10 to the 9? Yes, it is. Remember my two rules. This front number needs to be 1 through 9, and this back number needs to be 10 raised to a power. So 10, I represent that as 10 raised to a power of x. All right, for the next problem, we have division. We're dividing this by this. So I can also write division how? Yeah, I can also write it as a fraction. So I can do 4 times 10 to the 7th over 2 times 10 to the negative third. Now that I've set it up like this, what can I start dividing? I can start dividing my two numbers. So if I do 4 divided by 2, I'll end up with 2. Now I'm left with these tens. What do I need to do with these tens? Yeah, I can subtract my exponents. So I have 7 minus negative 3. When we were subtracting exponents on the MLQ like this, a lot of us made mistakes. So what is 7 minus negative 3? When I am subtracting a negative, what can I change that into? This can become addition, so it's actually 7 plus 3. So this is 2 times 10 to the 10th power. All right, our third problem, we have 40 times 3 times 10 to the negative 4th. So this first number isn't in scientific notation, and the second number is. So how can we multiply when we have one number that is in scientific notation and one number that isn't? First, let's check. What operations do we have in this expression? I have multiplication here and multiplication here. This tells me that I can go in any order. I can multiply in any order that I want. So instead of having the parentheses here, I can start by multiplying 40 times 3. Does anybody know what this property is called? It's called the associative property of multiplication. The associative property of multiplication says that 2 times 4 times 3 is the same as changing these around when you have all multiplication. So it doesn't matter where you put the parentheses if you're only doing multiplication. So that was just a quick side lesson. Okay, so I can start by multiplying my 40 and my 3 together. 40 times 3 is what? 120. That's easy because 3 times 4 is 12. Then just add my 0. So now I have 120 times 10 to the negative 4th. All right, am I done? Is this number in scientific notation? No, it's not. Why is it not in scientific notation? Because this is 10 raised to a power, so that's correct. But this is too big. So I need to make this smaller. How many times do I need to move the decimal to make it so that this number is in scientific notation, so that this is 1 through 9? Yeah, I need to move it 2 times. When I make this number smaller, what happens to this number? It needs to get bigger. So it needs to get bigger by how much? By 2 tens. Because this is the same as dividing by 10 2 times, so now I need to multiply by 10 2 times, which is the same as adding 2 to my exponent. So this becomes 1 and 2 tenths, which can also be written like this, but remember when we have a 0 at the end, it's just a placeholder, times 10 to the negative 4 plus 2. What is negative 4 plus 2? This becomes negative 2. So our final answer is 1 2/10 times 10 to the negative second power. All right, for my final problem, I have 8 divided by 2 times 10 to the 8th. When we had all multiplication, I just switched around the parentheses, right? So I changed the order I multiplied in. Can I do that when I have division and multiplication? Can I switch these parentheses to here so that I can do those numbers first? No, I can't, because the commutative or the associative property of multiplication only applies when it's all multiplication. So I can't switch these parentheses because I have two different types of operations. But what I can do is write this as a fraction. So I have 8 over 2 times 10 to the 8th. In order to divide this, I need to write my top number in scientific notation. What can I write to make my top number in scientific notation? What can I multiply this by? I can multiply this by 10 to the 0 power. 10 to the 0 power is the same as anything raised to the 0 power is the same as what? It's the same as 1. So 8 times 1 doesn't change my numerator, so I can make it 8 times 10 to the 0 power. Now I can divide the way I divided my other scientific notation problem. I can start with my front numbers. 8 divided by 2 is 4 times, what do I do when I'm dividing exponents with the same base? I subtract by exponents, so I have 10 times 0 minus 8. If I take 8 away from 0, I end up with negative 8. So my answer is 4 times 10 to the negative 8th power. So what do I do when I'm dividing? How can I make a whole number into scientific notation? Right, I multiply it by 10 to the 0th power. That's our final answer. Go ahead, try the last 4 problems as well as the review at the bottom of the page independently.